That was a lot. That was a lot.
It's just me welcoming myself to the episode, Ian.
Oh, well, good, because I wasn't going to do it. So.
We got a lot going on, man.
Yes, please enlighten us.
Dude. Okay, so I was, Katie and I were coming home from somewhere, and
I'm coming home.
I started talking about Gilles de Rais, who you might know as the first known serial killer of history. He was French. He fought in the 100 Years' War, which is not 100 years. It was 116 years. Fought in 3 factions. Okay.
Wow.
Joan of Arc.
So he was just there to murder motherfuckers, basically.
Kind of, but not really. And I could go into the spiel of Gilles de Rais and Joan of Arc and their significance and their absolute, glory and fucking craziness and his theatrical obsession and how everyone talks about how beautiful Joan of Arc's tits are. And that's what I decided to do.
Gotta love the titties. Gotta love nice.
Gotta love those tits. Gotta love those hoo-has. And Katie was listening to me, but not listening to me. And then all of a sudden, I hear this sigh coming from her. And I was like, what? I was like, aren't you interested in the part where Joan of Arc was about to fall in battle, but Gilles de Rais, the world's first known serial killer, comes out of nowhere and saves her life? And she goes, I don't know what you're talking about at all. I haven't been able to keep up with anything you have talked about. And I'm like, I've been going for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah. You probably lost her around minute 2.
It was, yeah, man. And it's only just because I saw some shit on TikTok about Gilles de Rais, and I'm deep diving into this motherfucker, and I'm fucking pumped about it. And no one else gives a fuck.
No. The listeners of our podcast might give a fuck.
They might. It's a fascinating topic.
Maybe your girlfriend, on the other hand, doesn't.
She's just nope, babe.
Hey, at least she was there to listen for you for 10 minutes before she got to the sigh.
She was listening actively. No, but she was there. The ears were turned on. She knew I was speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, but that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about today.
We're gonna go to Mexico. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drinking Our Way Through History, where we cover the legendary people, places, spectacles, and events that history has to offer while enjoying a thick pour of whiskey.
How many times have you done this, Cooper?
So many times.
How many times have you done this?
I am Cooper.
And drinking beer today instead of whiskey is Ian.
Wow.
I know.
So proud of you.
I know.
Now, is there something you should ask the listeners, Ian?
I was just waiting for you to ask me to ask them, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could leave us a 5-star review.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Sick, nasty, even stellar.
Yeah.
Top of the line.
Wow.
Yes.
You used to have really good transitions into asking people.
Because you have the review ask after our intro. I would use the first paragraph to delve into the review ask, and it would be funny. But now you've put it so that every time it's just after I am Ian. Also, let's go ahead and get a review.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drinking Our Way Through History. I am Cooper.
And I am Ian.
Last time, we left off with Cortés securing an alliance with the Totonacs and challenging the Aztec tribute collectors, secretly releasing them to keep Montezuma at bay.
You know what's interesting about that, Cooper?
What?
He was securing an alliance. You know what we want to secure?
What?
The 5-star review from our audience. You see how easy that is? You see how easy that is? I mean, I'm just saying, man. Give me room to maneuver,
All right.
Point has been made. That was just off the top, too, man.
Cortés had established the settlement of Veracruz, freeing himself of Governor Velázquez and ensuring his expedition now reported directly to the Spanish crown. After crushing a mutiny and sinking his own ships to remove any chance of retreat, Cortés led his men deeper into Mexico.
He crushed that mutiny and you guys are crushing that 5-star review button right now. Like, see? All right. No more.
The Spaniards faced a fierce battle with the Tlaxcalans, and despite being outnumbered, Cortés's disciplined forces won, leading to a crucial alliance with the Tlaxcalans. Soon after, the Spaniards entered Cholula, where they uncovered a plot to ambush them. In response, Cortés initiated the brutal Cholula massacre, slaughtering thousands, sending a clear message to Montezuma and the Aztec Empire. Finally, Cortés's persistence paid off when Montezuma invited him to Tenochtitlan. In an unprecedented moment in history, Cortés and Montezuma met face-to-face on the causeways of the magnificent city. Montezuma, draped in riches and reverence, greeted the Spanish leader, marking the beginning of a tense and fatal relationship between the two men that would forever change the fate of the Aztec Empire.
Bum, bum, bum.
Dude,
I'm still having some mic troubles over here, bro. It's just
struggle buffing.
Struggle boofing.
Oh, well, he's fucking around. I also wanted to display my books of conquest here. So this is the Conquistador Hernán Cortés, King Montezuma, and the Last Stand of the Aztecs by Buddy Levy. Okay, this is the book. This is readable. This is doable. This is not bad. It's got pretty pictures in the middle of here, you know. See that color? Wow.
I don't see color.
Oh, that's right. You're fucking disabled.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Cooper calls colorblind people disabled.
And then this is the fucking monster of a book by, it's called Conquest, Montezuma, Cortés, and the Fall of Old Mexico by Hugh Thomas.
It really rolls off the tongue.
Really rolls off. This is a fucking beast of small print. Look at that small print. And it is very well written, very entertaining. I have chosen to rate segments of this bitch. Did you hear that thump?
That was a thump.
That was a thump.
That was it thumping on the table.
Knock a bitch out with that shit.
Audio listeners love you to death. Just so you know what just happened, Cooper showed off 2 of his first primary resources to the camera. So you could see that on YouTube.
You can.
But they're both pretty thick.
Thank you.
Both pretty thick.
Oh,
man.
all right.
So at this point, Montezuma said that he would meet with Cortés later and that the Spanish... Oh, sorry. And then this... Okay.
Ooh, dude, starting off strong.
Hey, man. I thought that review thing was all I had in me. At this point, Montezuma said that he would meet with Cortés later, and the Spanish were escorted into the city where they were shown to Montezuma's father's compound, where they would be housed. This compound was huge and was able to house the entire army comfortably, holding up to 7,000 people.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so this area, this compound, like, Tenochtitlan was huge. And so there was temples and compounds and all sorts of shit there. And so this was like, Montezuma's place. Montezuma has his own grandeur place. And they were just like put up there and it's massive. So they were there and then they started putting up cannons because they realized they weren't very fucking safe here.
Got to put up the cannons. So right away, Cortés and his men fortify the compound, setting up cannons and having guards stationed at key points. He then went ahead and had his men perform military drills, firing their weapons in the courtyard of this compound, mainly to just frighten the Aztecs, kind of show a power.
He's just like, we're outnumbered.
We summon thunder!
We are on this little island.
You ever heard of Thor?
No, they hadn't.
Well, I'm Thor's hammer.
I wonder if the Spanish knew like Greek mythology.
I mean, I would assume so, as long as they were afterwards, because it's pretty well known throughout the world.
That's not Greek mythology. That's
Norse. That's Vikings.
Norse mythology.
For Thor, yeah, that's Norse.
Yeah, not Greek.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought you were just asking about Greeks for some reason.
I said Spanish knew about Greek mythology, but then I go, no, that would not be. That's Norse mythology. I'm doing good. This is a good day. They're not even related. Okay, we're good. Starting off strong.
God. I thought I was doing bad. Later that day, Montezuma summoned Cortés, where he would greet him once again with gifts, this time with more gold and treasure than any of the Spanish had ever seen before in their entire lives. Both sides then exchanged pleasantries, and Cortés reiterated that he was a friend of the emperor. Cortés and his men then departed peacefully and would go about enjoying the city.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, it's pretty fucking successful for Cortés.
Yeah.
But he understood that he was vulnerable at this point. He and his men were on an island. like an island city surrounded by more than 200,000 people, and the only way off the island was on the causeways that could be shut down at a moment's notice.
You're right.
So it's not in like the best situation, so best keep shit happy right now. If things went badly, they would and they needed to get the fuck out of town, they were in some serious trouble. But on the positive side, the Spanish were in a defensible position within what they had, how they had fortified their area, and on good terms with the Aztecs at this moment.
They basically just gave him a freaking fort.
Well, they had to. There's so many freaking guys that just showed up.
Fair.
You know?
It's fair. They could have been like, you guys stay outside the city, and you can bring in 100.
Yeah,
you know,
but the causeways were from 3 to 5 miles long into the city.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I mean, that's just
that's a lot. Would have been so rude of him to ensure his not being fucking overthrown.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the whole point of this is we're inviting this Spanish conqueror into the island, into the city island, because he's just massacred 5,000 Cholulans.
Right.
So we're just going to bend to his
will. So let's let him into our city.
Yeah, exactly. The Spanish were free to roam throughout the city. And as we stated, Tenochtitlan was an immaculate sight to see. The city housed over 200,000 people, making it as large as any city in Europe except for Constantinople. Their markets held slaves, textiles, exotic foods, pottery, animal skins, and a million other items. You could also find chocolate and tobacco.
Nice.
Both were unknown to Europeans at the time, so these guys were losing their shit. These city markets could hold down between 20,000 and 60,000 people every single day.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's a lot of people just bustling in and out of this market.
Yeah, I love the fact that they didn't know about tobacco yet. I'm just imagining the first time they take a hit out of a pipe and they're just like, oh my
we're gonna
God.
make so much money off of this.
Literally, dude. Literally. That and chocolate.
It's funny to think about
chocolate back then wasn't very sweet, though. It was just cocoa.
Cocoa, yeah. Well, where did the sugar plantations come from? They were the islands, right? The Caribbeans?
I'm not sure. Probably, I think so.
Yeah,
I learned that in Assassin's Creed, I think.
It's weird to think about ancient Rome, and they never smoked.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've never envisioned them to smoke, but I just have this picture of them all smoking. I think it's because of modern day, Italians smoking all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, they didn't have anything to smoke, I guess. I never really thought of that either.
Right?
Interesting.
It's just weird to think about. They never... I could see Caesar fucking enjoying a cigar.
Yeah. Yeah. But instead, they just got super drunk and had no tobacco to smoke while super drunk. That sucks. You know what I mean? That's rough.
Yeah,
that's rough. What a hard life.
Such a hard life.
So the city,
wine.
I know, exactly. The city had many other highlights. There were extensive botanical gardens, an aquarium, a huge ball court, and zoo where you could find crocodiles, jaguars, snakes, mountain lions, eagles, falcons, hawks, as well as the beautiful plume birds that the Aztecs loved so much. The city itself was orderly and well-maintained. There were grand palaces and homes. Montezuma's palace was guarded by 3,000 men alone and had 1,000 servants. Canals were constructed throughout the city, allowing for easy everyday travel.
You know, a little crazy fucking thing is Montezuma never used the same piece of cutlery or dishware twice. Every time he used a plate, that would then just go to one of the Aztecs, one of the people in the city. He would never eat off that same plate again.
Weird.
Crazy, right?
He must have been a germaphobe.
I think it's just because he's the
I am
god.
above these
he's
plates.
He's the deity.
I am above these plates.
He's a godlike man.
You kill yourself for me with my plate. The city was beautiful and magnificent to say the least, but nothing captured the Spanish attention more than the city's temples. They're like, look at all that gold.
Absolutely.
The main one being the Temple of Mayor, which was a large pyramid with 2 steep stairways to access the 2 shrines on the top platform. The shrines at the top were dedicated to both the god of war and the god of rain. The shrine for the god of war was Montezuma's personal temple.
It was his personal temple, and that's where it was bloody. It was a bloody bitch up there. A few days after arriving, Cortés and some men got permission to visit the temple alongside Montezuma. Inside of the temple, they were disgusted at what they saw. Although at like this point, I don't know why they're still fucking surprised. Like they've gone to these temples, they keep seeing these massacres, these fucking bodies filleted, and they're just like, oh, this is the end of the world. And I'm like, come on, it's old news.
It's like, dude, you've seen this 17 times, and you've slaughtered thousands of people in a city. Yeah. Like, at least this is orderly, like organized.
It's in essence for them to live. And so this, of course, is where the human sacrifice took place. To say that the Spanish were overwhelmed by the sight and smell of it all would be the understatement of the year. But I guess, to be fair, this shit was actually like fucking metal as fuck, okay? So instead, inside of the temple, atop the pyramid, was a stockpile of human skulls.
Just in case.
Constructed to resemble a viewing theater of slain, sacrificed victims.
Nice.
Okay.
It's like modern television.
Set in stacks of 5 on tiered poles between large supporting towers were some 136,000 skulls.
Man.
All the heads were facing outwards. The open mouth face bleached to the bone, white from the altitude sun, just fucking sitting there. Oh, like heavy metal, bro. I just think of fucking like just a job for a cowboy. Just
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, 100%. Or like some kid walking in to the catacombs on accident, and it's just lined with skulls. You know what I mean? Like, just that amount of bodies.
And so for the Spaniards, this was super macabre and was a very chilling sight, to say the least. So during his tour of the palaces and marketplace, Cortés would also have heard of another gruesome ritual practice, including slashing open throats of infants, beheading of young women, and the dressing of teenagers in recently flayed human skins.
Ooh, not just flayed human skins, recently
flayed. Yes,
that shit's still bloody.
The shock and disgust that he felt, notwithstanding his own recent personal acts of barbarity against the fucking
against
Cholulans.
He's like, how could you do this?
Exactly. Like, this must have fueled his sense of like righteousness and his mission along the way. Because Cortés was a very, very devout Catholic. Like, very fucking devout. Now, Cortés's reaction to the Aztec rituals is extremely hypocritical, especially considering Spain's own recent, as we've talked about, their own cruelty in the Inquisition and its persecution of the Moors and also the Jews. So also, the fucking massacre of the 5,000 to 6,000 Cholulans. So
but Cooper, it was all in the name of God.
Oh my God! It just goes to reinforce that historical truth that one person's passion is another's perversity, right?
Yeah.
It's fucking. I get it, but I don't get it, and it's just repeat. It's just human nature.
Well, Cooper, if God didn't want it to happen, it wouldn't happen.
No. You're right. You're right. God is on their side. It's funny how God is always on the side of the victor.
No.
God is
because he's on everybody's side. It's just the victors who choose, that they're right. Man, it's such a complicated conversation. What a life. History's so stupid sometimes.
History's not stupid.
Just the people in history.
No, religion is stupid.
Oh,
religious belief and the willful ignorance that people apply to their belief.
I think the conviction of it all is what's stupid. We're not here to discuss religion.
Yeah, fuck religion.
But yeah. It's a topic. We can have a hot topic debate one day.
We could.
Now, once again, Cortés condemned the Aztecs' beliefs, condemned Montezuma, and tried to convert the Aztecs to Christianity, but was quickly turned down, and Cortés didn't press the issue any further. Montezuma basically tells him to shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're demanding.
Yeah.
Because they had literally killed over 136,000 people that they can just see right there.
But they needed
in the name of this religion
to die in order for the sun to come up.
Absolutely. If they hadn't have done it, it would still be dark out. No more crops. So for Montezuma and his people, the hearts and blood of the victims were not just desired, but absolutely necessary. There was neither sport or entertainment. This was neither sport nor entertainment. It was an absolute requirement in order to live from the gods.
From the gods, exactly. Fucking hold the heart out. Oh, God, it's crazy. At this point, Cortés had done it, right? He had made it to Tenochtitlan. He had met the mighty Montezuma. But now is where things get kind of murky and what actually takes place. Because the facts become a bit vague, and all we truly know is that between November of 1519 and April of 1520, Cortés will take Montezuma hostage. So let's kind of get into this, okay?
Yes.
According to Buddy Levy, the Spanish soldiers were beginning to grow restless. They had found a secret treasure trove in one of Montezuma's closets or something like that during their stay, and the word was spread it was just right around the corner behind a curtain, and it's just this mass amount of gold. And so the word was spreading amongst all the men, and the men are just that's all they can see. Nothing else fucking matters to them.
Well, that and the chocolate.
Actually, they didn't talk too much about becoming obsessed with the chocolate.
Probably because it was gross and bitter back then.
It could be. So this was not helping their restlessness overall. Cortés was also feeling a bit uneasy about the Aztecs hosting them. Basically, he was starting to become paranoid over the whole thing. Then the Tlaxcalans and some of his captains had approached Cortés, stating that the Aztecs were no longer showing them hospitality. While Cortés and his captains were discussing the matter, a porter arrived with some news stating that there was an attack on some troops back in the east, which left several Spanish dead.
Oh, boy. This is how it always starts.
Always start with this. Well, it's the excuse, right? Gives you the excuse.
Yeah, the straw that broke the camel's back when really the camel's back wanted to break.
Yes.
According to Bernal Diaz, when Cortés heard about the attack, he organized a dinner with Montezuma. After some initial pleasantries, Cortés became serious and accused Montezuma of either ordering the attack himself or allowing a man named Qualpopoca to do it on his behalf. Cortés then told Montezuma that he would need to come with the Spanish until the investigation was finished. Montezuma was humiliated by this and feared that he could not return to his own people because they were now resenting him, thinking he had become a pawn of the Spanish, essentially. Eventually, Montezuma's brother tried to come up with a plot to rescue him and kill the Spanish, but the plan was found out, and his brother was imprisoned as well. There is another take where the Spanish were able to keep a friendly relationship with the Aztecs for much longer, and the imprisonment of Montezuma might not have even taken place up until April, which does seem far more likely.
Because, managing a hostage takeover of 200,000 plus people with their emperor, taking him hostage for 5 months without any kind of uproar just doesn't really seem likely.
Right, what did they do that whole time? Just kill more people at the temple, and they're like, hopefully you give us back our Montezuma.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's, and I don't think I actually wrote about this. There's this chapter of where it's Cortés and Montezuma. Basically, they're playing games, they're hanging out, they're taking walks through the botanical garden, Montezuma's teaching him how to play, fucking Aztec games, Cortés is teaching him how to play Spanish cards, they're drinking together.
Two peas in a pod.
This is very much Montezuma's just going with this shit,
Right.
This is very much a hostage situation, and Montezuma is trying to play this pretty cool. So the show Hernán that's on Apple TV is, I feel demonstrates this very well, because they argue about taking Montezuma hostage until they resolve the murders that happened. And Montezuma puts up a very big fight about this. And then he has to go about the kingdom to organize affairs because he's still running a fucking empire.
Yeah, massive fucking empire.
There are very day-to-day things that he has to take care of, and that he is the law. His word is law. So to have him all of a sudden become held captive and then have to present it to his people like he is not being held captive, right, even though the leader does not leave the leader's fucking temple while he is running the fucking empire.
Yeah, it's you got to appoint somebody to kind of take charge while you're gone too, and it's got to be somebody that you don't fear.
He's still running it, but things are being approved by Cortés.
Oh, so Cortés is now running it.
Yes,
in a sense.
People are coming over to the area that they are being housed at. Montezuma's there. He is receiving the emissaries about day-to-day things and about festivals that are coming up, sacrifices that need to be done, and Cortés is saying yay or nay. Yeah.
What a life. So, yeah, basically either way, Montezuma was just under the control of the Spanish.
It's astonishing. So now something that truly stunned the Aztecs right to the core was when the Spanish were able to get a hold of Qualpopoca. This is the guy who killed the Spaniards. Cortés had captured him, his son, and 15 other nobles. He had these men brutally beaten until Qualpopoca was forced to confess that Montezuma had given him the order to fight and kill anyone who interfered with their tribute collections. So,
just a false confession.
Exactly. For this false confession, Cortés ordered Qualpopoca and his son and the 15 nobles to burn at the stake. You know, bringing up that little Inquisition playbook like, all right, we're going to go with C-35 and we're going to go quarterback tight left.
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Cortés intended to send a message to all Aztecs. Killing a Spaniard would result in the highest of penalties. As Buddy Levy put it, having admitted their guilt, the Aztecs were tethered to poles and led to the square directly in front of the great temple. As they stood in confused horror, Cortés's men arrived from Montezuma's personal storage arsenals with javelins, swords, bows, and arrows, which they used to make great pyres. In the meantime, Cortés visited Montezuma. After verbally lambasting him for his part in the deaths of his men, he ordered the emperor to be chained in ankle irons, an utterly humiliating and unprecedented indignity. Cortés then took Montezuma to watch as his own countrymen were burned alive at the stake. Their horrific screams were finally subsumed by the snapping and crackling of the flaming wooden weapons. A large crowd gathered at the square to witness the atrocity, stunned into utter silence and confused as to how their emperor could have ordered this, or if he had not, how could he have allowed it?
Yeah.
That's just and they didn't do this. They did not do these types of executions. They did not burn people at the stake.
Deaths were meaningful to them. This just seemed meaningless.
Exactly. Like we've said, at no point in time are they trying to kill in battle. They are trying to capture in order to sacrifice to their gods.
Yeah.
After this execution, Cortés returned Montezuma to his new palace prison, removed the chains, and apologized for binding him and promised him that they could rule the land together, truly beginning that good old Stockholm syndrome. It's said that after witnessing his men burned at the stake, Montezuma's spirit was officially broke.
Man.
He's never seen this kind of brutality. They are fucking brutal, but brutal for reasons. Actual reasons that make sense. This is all just like
a show of force.
Barbarity. Yeah.
Barbarity by a more civilized culture. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, but with weapons that you can't imagine.
Yeah.
That you've never
They're literally
possible.
burning your weapons to burn your people.
Yeah. Just a totally out of pocket fucking picture for these people.
Yeah. A few things to mention before we go any further. Montezuma had supposedly signed over the power of the Aztec Empire to Cortés and the Spanish crown. Mm-hmm. Did this happen legitimately? Probably not. Yeah. Did Montezuma maybe sign something that the Spanish put in front of him? Possibly. But it's highly doubtful that Montezuma just handed over the keys to the kingdom at the snap of some Spanish fingers. Mm-hmm. This was a technique amongst the Spanish for hundreds of years. Get the native people to sign something they didn't understand and then wave it in their face later.
Yep.
Most likely, Cortés used this to advance his popularity with the Spanish crown.
Look at this document. Look, the natives fucking love me. They gave me their land. Look at how cool I am, bro.
Well, of course.
It's this is the shit. And it's just Montezuma didn't know what the fuck he's saying. He's like, you want me to write on this piece of paper? Okay, scribble my signature. And I probably have never scribbled my signature before.
Yeah, he has people for that.
Yeah.
Another thing Cortés did was build 4 ships while he was in Tenochtitlan to use for an escape. Even though he scuttled his fleet outside of Veracruz, he had saved all of the equipment from the ships, the sails, the nails, the rope, etc.
Yes. And now, while ships were being built, Cortés sent out a couple of expeditions outside of Tenochtitlan. One was to see if he could find where the Aztecs got their gold, and the other was to see if he could find any other natives that could be potential allies. The final thing Cortés did was gather as much gold and treasure as he possibly could from Tenochtitlan.
Naturally.
Montezuma told Cortés that he could have everything he wanted except for the feathers, as those belonged to the gods.
Yes. And
Cortés, the Spaniards are like, yeah, Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you keep the fucking feathers, Birdman.
Keep your fucking headdresses, dude. We just want the gold.
Yeah. Now, Cortés faced a bit of a predicament. Get out while the getting was good, and before the populace decided on their own to rebel against the Spanish, or dig in further and continue to work on controlling the entire Aztec Empire. Well, a blast from Cortés's past would force him into action whether he liked it or not. Welcome back, good old Diego Velázquez.
He's like, oh, hello, I've eaten so many fucking pigs since then. He's probably like 20 pounds heavier. This guy. Going back a little bit to that treasure ship that Cortés had sent to the Spanish crown when he first showed up, because he was like giving, a treasure fit for a king. He had made sure to tell these people explicitly, don't fucking stop in Cuba, no matter what. Just don't stop there. Velázquez is there. We want this to get to fucking Spain. Don't stop in Cuba and talk your mouths off. Well, they went ahead and stopped in Cuba.
Naturally.
And word of what was on the ship got around. Luckily for Cortés, the treasure still managed to get along to Spain without incident, but word of the treasure and Cortés's actions had spread like wildfire in Cuba. Velázquez was what you might call just slightly upset, just a little bit, or flat out fucking enraged, and decided to respond in force and go after Cortés. Velázquez turned to his trusted lieutenant, Panfilo de Narvaez. Thank you. Who was one brutal son of a bitch and also a completely incompetent piece of shit to lead this charge. He's one of those guys that's just like, he's so brutal in history, but he just really can't get the job done.
Yeah.
He's like, everybody wants him to be so successful, but yet he just can't fucking do it right.
Yeah.
Okay. Narvaez took off with 18 ships, 20 cannons, 800 men, which included 80 cavalry, on March 5th, 1920, and arrived in Mexico in early April.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Narvaez and Cortés would kind of try to compromise. Narvaez trying to get Cortés to surrender, and Cortés trying to get Narvaez to join his forces. Both knew that there was no real compromise to be had. Politics had to be played, and battle was inevitable. Cortés did have the upper hand, even though he was outmanned Spaniard to Spaniard. He had money, and he had native alliances that Narvaez was not fully aware of.
Yeah.
Cortés used the wealth he had amassed to convince and bribe some of Narvaez's men that he was in the right. He also sent a gift, along with a bribe, to a representative of the Spanish crown that they had sent along with Narvaez in order to maintain that things would remain bloodless between the Spanish. Eventually, Narvaez would put this representative on a ship and send him back to Spain for constantly looking over Narvaez's shoulder and kind of being a pain in the ass.
He was just like he was by the book kind of dude. He's like, right. Spaniards will not kill Spaniards. And Narvaez is like, I'm going to fucking kill Cortés. Get the fuck out of my way.
Sometimes Spaniards kill Spaniards, man. It's fine. Oh, yeah, that's funny. With the gift and bribe from Cortés and the hostility from Narvaez, it would make this representative more sympathetic to Cortés when reporting back to the crown.
Yeah, so this is just one of those like little notches in Cortés's belt. Like, all right, we got now a representative directly of the crown that is on Cortés's side. Narvaez and Velázquez, piece of shit. Cortés gave me some fucking gold.
Good lot of gold.
He was pretty nice.
Whole ship of gold.
He was pretty nice to me in those letters,
Yeah, they were pen pals.
they were. Oh, and also there's a part of this where apparently, at least in Buddy Levy's book, where Montezuma and Narvaez were communicating by letters back and forth. I just don't buy it because I don't think exactly
how.
So there's nothing. I honestly I couldn't find it in Conquest anything about it. Now I mean there's a chance there's a page on it somewhere, but it's a big fucking book,
right?
But I couldn't find it in any other like media articles or anything like that. There's nothing. So I just don't buy it. Like there's not enough time. Narvaez shows up and he's immediately there. I don't know how he would have just showed up and immediately contacted Montezuma. He's like, let me talk to this guy. I don't think that's how it works. And so I just don't quite buy that. Cortés knew he was going to have to deal with Narvaez, so he split his forces and left about 120 men with Captain Pedro de Alvarado.
Pedro de Alvarado. See, that's a name I like.
Yeah,
I like that name.
I like that name, but this is about to get bad.
That sounds right.
To watch over things in Tenochtitlan. Around May 1st, Cortés would take 250 to 300 of his men east to face Narvaez. On May 28th, Cortés and his men engaged in a night assault during a heavy rainstorm into Narvaez's camp.
Ah, good.
The victory was almost immediate. Narvaez and his men didn't anticipate Cortés to arrive so quickly, and also weren't expecting any kind of attack in the rain. So there's like two things that were going, like, this is one of those moments where this is what separates Cortés from Narvaez and a typical other Spaniard.
Right.
Cortés would have been always prepared. He made his men sleep in their fucking armor at all times, always had watch. Narvaez was like, it's night, it's raining, I'm tired, we're all gonna go to bed, we'll have a good, roast, and then, we'll wake up in the morning, we'll see where we're at.
Yeah.
And Cortés was like, we're going in right fucking now.
No wonder he didn't win a lot.
Exactly. 15 of Narvaez's men had been killed, and only 2 of Cortés's men had been killed. Narvaez had surrendered after losing an eye, and then would spend the next 3 years in Veracruz as a prisoner before being sent back to Spain. Once back in Spain, he tried another conquest to Florida, where he was also where he also had royally fucked up.
Nice.
He would end up losing 396 men out of an original 400, and he would die at sea without food or water and riddled with leprosy.
Oh, good.
So
good.
He's just a fucking
a death
idiot.
befitting a man, I think. It's like that's so fucked up. Oh man,
like,
poor guy.
This man did not have a good
He tried,
run.
he gave it.
He
gave it
did
his
try.
best. Did not succeed. So this victory would reward Cortés in the form of supplies and men, gaining upwards of 1,000 men, 80 horses, guns, and artillery.
This was a big win.
Yeah. All of the men pledged their allegiance to Cortés after hearing about the riches he and the other Spaniards had been able to muster up. Not long after his victory, Cortés received a message from Captain Alvarado in Tenochtitlan saying that Tenochtitlan was in full revolt and he needed him to come home quickly.
Like, please fucking help. This is not good. It's
a lot of motherfuckers in this bitch. There's a lot of motherfuckers.
So what exactly happened? Cortés gave the Aztecs permission to perform their celebration of Tenochtitlan, which was dedicated to the god. Oh God, I had this down. I didn't even think I needed the pronunciation.
Tezcatlipoca.
Tezcatlipoca.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. Good thing I pronounced that right the first time.
I hate you so much.
The celebration is held from May 1st to May 25th, which is the driest part of the year. And so the point of the festival is so that the Aztecs can sacrifice in order to bring back the rains.
Oh, good. Because if they didn't do that, it'd be a dry summer.
It'd be a dry season, right? Now, it's kind of back and forth on who says, like, if Cortés gave them special permission to sacrifice on this, but Alvarado was like, they were going to sacrifice, and you said not to sacrifice, and Cortés is like, just fucking keep the peace, bro.
Yeah, just let them for now until we get back. How many did we kill? Come on.
Come on. They had this pretty fucking metal part of the festival, okay? So a young virgin male was selected a year prior to the festival. He would be an impersonator of or manifestation of Tlaxcala. Say it again, Ian.
Tezcatlipoca.
There we go. Good job.
Thanks.
It's a good thing I pronounced that right. The god of destiny and fortune. For he manifested him for like an entire year, right?
Yeah.
He would dance, sing, play instruments, be paraded through the city, and then at the festival, he would take a sack-tripping amount of mushrooms.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, he was on one.
See, everybody else is cool with the mushrooms. Come on, America.
He would arrive at the Great Temple, and he would climb to the top of it. And at the top of the temple, he would be met by the priests, where he would acknowledge the power of the Great Lakes around him. The priest would then lay him down and cut out his beating heart and raise it to the gods. And then he would be beheaded and his skull displayed on the skull rack for all to see.
Goddamn right. It's like that episode of South Park where they're going after Paris Hilton. You know, when they're like, we always take one person and rise them up to basic royalty, and then we watch as they die.
That's wonderful. Yeah, this is
it's
basically
exactly
it.
the same thing. Who would have thought?
Mm-hmm.
The Aztecs were basically just Paris Hilton fans.
They really were. Huh. Yeah, totally. They probably had little dog houses. Dog mansions, I should say.
Yeah, little dog mansions. Now, according to Alvarado, the mood of the Aztecs changed, and Montezuma became more withdrawn. The servants stopped taking care of the Spanish needs altogether, and there were rumors of the Aztecs planning to sacrifice the Spanish at the conclusion of the upcoming festival. Alvarado then stated that he discovered these rumors to be true after he had brutally tortured some of the natives. Apparently, brutal torture is all right?
Yeah.
But ritualized human sacrifice for religious purposes was out of the question.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I could beat the shit out of you, but hey, we can't have you sacrifice to save yourself.
Nope.
Like that is, even though you practiced it for thousands of years.
And even though they're willing participants, well, not all of them, but
this guy was.
This guy at this festival was.
He was like getting prepped up for a fucking year.
Hell yeah. I wonder if he was still a virgin by the time they got it.
Yeah. I think they take this shit pretty seriously.
I'm sure they do. But like, you gotta wonder, Now, a few days into the festival, there was a particular celebration called the Serpent Dance, held at a place called the Patio of Dances, which could hold thousands of people. The Serpent Dance was attended by the Aztec hierarchy, nobles, priests, war heroes, and leaders. There were a few thousand spectators and about 500 dancers, all unarmed.
Keep that in mind.
All unarmed. As the event went on for a few hours, Captain Alvarado led 60 or so Spaniards into the celebration along with 1,000 Tlaxcalan warriors and positioned them around the entrances and exits. Now, there are multiple possible reasons why Alvarado brought in all of these men, making sure that this was not the beginning of a mutiny, actually attending the celebration, but were overcome by all of the treasure. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, because being overcome by all, like, they were seeing gold. And that's all they saw. They're like, oh my God. Like, they actually
fucking
showed
turn
up.
into werewolves
Exactly.
and shit.
Yeah. They showed up for the event. They're like, all right, we'll see what's going on. And they're like,
holy
look
shit.
At this treasure that we haven't looted from these fuckers yet.
We want more.
Yeah, or just fucking flat out revenge on them for just a possible plot against the Spanish, similar to Cholula. Now, regardless of the reason, Alvarado had the gates sealed off and then yelled out, let them die! And the massacre began.
Well, that sounds premeditated a little bit.
A little bit.
That's one of those wait for my signal moments,
Yeah.
So
this signal is pretty fucking clear. And get this, the first person to be slayed was the lead dancer. Both his arms were lopped off, and then his body was beheaded.
It's like, I'm just here to dance, man.
Yep.
Jeez.
To put it simply, every Aztec that was in attendance was slaughtered. Well, okay, most of them, because some people did escape. Whether they tried to fight back, surrender, or hide, the Spanish and the Tlaxcalans cut down every person.
Nice.
One Aztec who witnessed the massacre said that some tried to run for the gates and beg for their lives while the Spanish laughed and cut them down. Others tried to climb the walls but were unsuccessful. Some hid in the nearby buildings until they were discovered and killed. Others would hide amongst the dead, but if they moved, the Spanish would kill them. It was an absolute bloodbath. Only a handful managed to survive the slaughter. The Spanish then went about plundering the dead of their jewelry. It's so in Conquest, I read this chapter. You could it was literally a pool of blood, like running everywhere. It was similar to the Cholula massacre.
Yeah,
but the difference of this,
it was concentrated into one little area.
Yeah. And it was like very, very bad. And also, it was all of the nobility. It was the leaders.
Yeah, the entire hierarchy of the Aztec Empire.
You're cutting off not just the head of the snake, you're chopping the snake into bits and then throwing it on fire. And there's, you get the tail left that doesn't know how to fucking run an empire. Yeah. So everything is just like, this is insane. Oh, they're finest warriors. They're leaders. They're priests.
So much for keeping the peace.
Yeah.
Alvarado. Jeez, man.
This was a big, Cortés was not, no one was happy with Alvarado after
this. Like, dude, what the fuck did you do? What the
Bro, you had one job.
Jesus Christ, bro.
Job.
Soon after the massacre, the Spanish could hear war drums beating from the tops of the pyramids. The Aztecs had finally been pushed too far, and the real rebellion had arrived. The Aztec people descended on the Spanish, seeking their retribution. The Spanish retreated back to their compound, fighting the Aztecs every step of the way. Now, while all of this was happening, the Spanish back in the base were executing some of the Aztec nobles that were held hostage, along with Montezuma and his brother,
Cuitlahuac.
Cuitlahuac. Now, while the majority of the abled city was fighting back the Spaniards, other Aztecs went to the docks and burnt down the 4 ships that the Spaniards had built to help them make their escape.
Yeah.
They were also dismantling the causeways, trapping the Spaniards in. The Aztecs... Yeah, I know, right? Imagine that. They had a plan for this?
You mean that, like, everything that we thought could happen is happening?
Oh, fuck. Oh, God.
Oh, you mean they're
what have
pissed?
you done? Cortés just watching from the other bank like...
He's like, this fucking idiot. Well, no, he's over there kicking Narvaez's ass. This all happened at the same time.
Oh, yeah. You're right. The Aztecs would grow in numbers day after day outside of the Spanish compound, but Alvarado managed to get the urgent message out to Cortés. God, I'd hate to be that fucking messenger, bro.
Right? Like, you're going to go through this shit.
I wonder how many he sent.
We're going to send 20.
Yeah.
Hopefully one of you make it out.
Yeah, good luck.
Cortés was making haste on his way back and was stacked up with a full army. Like, he had men now. He had about 1,000 men, a little over 1,000 now. He had 80 cavalry. Yeah. He had now, just like a fucking, I guess I wrote this.
Okay, show off.
And so more Tlaxcalans joined him on his march way back to Tenochtitlan. Cortés had discovered through some of the native allies that the causeway on the west side of Lake Texcoco was still intact, and it was the shortest causeway to Tenochtitlan.
Oh, how convenient.
Well, there's 3 main ones that are like 3 to 5 miles long, and then there's like little ones that are like, closer that they can get through. It takes, you gotta
It takes way longer, but yeah.
Well, because you got to go all the fucking way around the goddamn lakes.
Right.
And so when they got there and they started crossing the causeway, they were anticipating some kind of attack or at least people out, but the city was a ghost town, eerily quiet, and it seemed uninhabited. So you might think that the city realized that they were done for once Cortés had arrived with such numbers and just hid and let him enter without resistance. But as what actually happened was the Aztecs had gone into an 80-day mourning after the Alvarado massacre. Once again, like, it's just like if they would have kept pushing.
Yeah.
Once Cortés had made his way back to the Spanish base, he went to find out what the actual fuck happened while he was gone. He's pretty pissed. He's a pissed off guy. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, dude.
Yeah.
When he found out about the massacre, he was not happy. His hope of continuing his march into Mexico and conquering the entire country peacefully was completely unrealistic now. Because that was like his idea was, okay, am I stopping here or am I just going to, I'm going to take over. I'm going to start ruling from Tenochtitlan. And then I'm going to continue with my men throughout Mexico and continue taking over all of the region. And then I will have all of Mexico.
Very well could have.
I think it was an ambitious thought.
It was, but I bet you he could have. It's Cortés. I mean, she seems to be doing good so far.
He did very good.
So Cortés wanted to give one last hurrah to see his dreams through, so he called upon Montezuma. The Spanish say that Montezuma was a broken, shell-shocked person at this point. He was in chains at all times. His people also despised him at this point for what he had allowed to happen. But this portrayal of Montezuma could have been created in order to cover up some of the upcoming events. Regardless, Cortés asked Montezuma to speak with his people to calm them down, but Montezuma said that was pointless. His people didn't respect him anymore, and they wouldn't listen to him. When he suggested that his brother, Cuitlahuac, be sent out to the people instead of him and talk to them, Cortés would agree, but it would actually end up being a huge mistake.
Oh yeah, Cuitlahuac was like he was a boss ass motherfucker.
Yeah. Once Cuitlahuac was released, he assumed the role of the Aztec emperor, or at least took command over the situation. During the next few days, a battle ensued around the kingdom to try and rid the Spanish from Tenochtitlan. Cortés would continue to try and get Montezuma to speak to his people, but Montezuma would respond with, "I wish to only die."
It's so sad.
Yep. Cortés wasn't having it and had Montezuma brought to the wall to speak to his people.
Cortés is just, this is not great.
Yeah.
Montezuma was escorted out to the walls by a few Spanish guards, but it is unlikely that any of Montezuma's words were heard over the roar of the battle below. Montezuma was then struck by multiple rocks to his head and chest and collapsed. The man who had ruled the Aztec Empire for 17 years, leading it to the pinnacle of its magnificence, lived through the night but perished within a few days after refusing medical attention, food, and water on July 30th, 1520, from the wounds of his own people. It was a tragic end to an enigmatic, tragic life. Now, there are, of course, like, there's a bunch of conflicting views of how Montezuma died.
Right.
There's some that say he went out to speak on his own accord, and the Spanish forced him. The Spanish that like killed him themselves, and then threw his body over the wall. There's he recovered, but the Spanish that stabbed him, like after they garroted him, which is an execution style that used an iron collar to strangle or break the neck of the victim.
Nice.
Something they used in the Inquisition.
Oh, good.
Then there's one of him and then threw his body over the afterwalls. I mean, it's just like there's so many different fucking versions of him, how he died. We don't really fucking know, but this is like the most likely version.
Yeah, we just know that for sure he died after this speech.
Yeah. He tried to give it a chance. I think like Quetzalcoatl was, I think he tried to most likely talk his people down. And I'm sure there was some sort of like kind of pissed off at Montezuma of like, what the fuck? Why haven't we just murdered these people? Kind of like Zagotenga the Younger from the Tlaxcalans. Like he wanted to just go out full force and massacre the Spaniards and just be done with them in one go. But Zagotenga the Elder was like, no, they're gods. We can't do anything against them. And then he only sent them out there with like a fourth of a force.
Right.
And I think it was the same kind of situation where Montezuma was being told over and over, fucking murder these people. We need to like slay them down. And Montezuma was hesitant, and now there's this. But I think at the same time when he was captured, Quetzalcoatl tried to like save Montezuma's name in a way instead of being totally resented. Like he is now captive, like, and I need to take over this situation, but it's not like completely his fault. It was, we're being forced and da-da-da-da-da. He's trying to be a brother at the end of the day.
Yeah. Finally reading the room, Cortés decided that with Montezuma now dead and the entirety of Tenochtitlan and surrounding allies out to seek their vengeance, it was probably time to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Just like, okay, I think we're done.
Yeah. Let's get out of here, buddy. Cortés wanted to try and surprise the Aztecs by making a break for it in the middle of the night and try to cut across the causeway leading west from Tenochtitlan to the mainland. There were two things the Spanish were going to have to deal with, the causeway itself and the immense amount of treasure they had collected. Oh, God. Such a bad problem to have.
It is a bad problem to have.
Yeah, it is for them now. Imagine that. For the causeways, they built a portable bridge.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well,
they could carry...
Sorry, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just excited because this is it.
So for the causeways, they built a portable bridge that they could carry with them to fill the deconstructed gaps. Now for the treasure, they had literally 8 tons of gold, silver, jewels, and other treasure, about 1,600 pounds.
16,000.
16,000, my bad. 16,000 pounds. Cortés had as much as he could possibly have packed up, and then he told the rest of the men to take what they wanted.
Yeah. And so how they built these, because they didn't have any resources in this little temple that they were staying in this little fort that they built out. Mm-hmm. They started deconstructing it. Like somehow somebody threw a rock or something like that, and it went through one of the walls, and they realized that there's these wooden studs in there. And so they started deconstructing the inner part of the temple.
Right.
And they started taking the fucking wood and then binding that together with all so it's just the ingenuity.
Right.
Gotta
do what you gotta do.
The Spanish and the Tlaxcalans made their escape attempt just after midnight on July 1st, 1520. It was rainy and there was a slight fog, which provided them with some good cover. They did all right at first, but there were thousands of people trying to escape, all carrying treasure. A
little loud.
A little bit loud.
Clanky.
Eventually they were noticed by an Aztec woman going to collect water. They were spread out miles onto the causeway by now, with still like bottlenecking at each broken up part.
Right.
And then still tons of them still in Tenochtitlan. The woman raised the alarm and the drums from the pyramids began to bang. The enraged Aztecs people ran to their war canoes and began their assault.
Not the war canoes!
They're fucking... They
are war canoes.
They are war canoes, sir.
By this point, the majority of the Spanish and Tlaxcalans were spread throughout the causeway by a few miles, and the Aztec canoes were fast approaching. The Aztecs began bombarding the Spanish with arrows and rocks, climbing up the causeways to fight hand-to-hand and drag men into the lake. Spanish were unable to use their horses and cannons, and the men who had decided to carry more treasure than they really should have began to fall into the lake or be easily pulled in and drowned.
Yeah. So they were like, some people who were smart, who had been like with Cortés for quite a while, was like, okay, not bringing that much treasure. Like, we'll find it somewhere else, but we need to be light on our feet. You know, we're going over a lake.
And we need to be quiet.
And we don't have the advantage.
We're trying to get the fuck out of here.
The causeway became complete chaos, and a bottleneck built up at one of the gaps where the Spanish had to actually climb down and try to cross the water to get to the other side. It was a crazy slow process, and when the Aztecs showed up in force to this point, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It is said that you could have walked the entire gap on the bodies that filled the break in the causeway.
Gross.
But still, the Spanish and Tenochtitlán pushed forward because surrendering or going back only meant certain death.
Thanks, Alvarado.
Yeah. This is a big thanks a lot, Alvarado. This became known as La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. About 600 Spanish and about 4,000 Tenochtitlán died that night and sank to the bottom of Lake Texcoco. That is 4,600 men gone in like about 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
That is insane. And I mean, honestly, Conquest, this battle, it's terrifying. It's so terrifying. So many people died. In a good amount of swords, armor were also abandoned to try to make a quicker escape. But I mean, most of the Spanish supplies were gone. They left their cannons, the gunpowder, most of the horses. The horses, bro. The horses died.
Yeah, I bet
There's
they
this
did.
one part in Conquest where one of the Spaniards is watching one of the horses who's carrying like hundreds of pounds of fucking gold. Oh yeah, just ate. Like, it was basically pushed over and fell into the lake, and it was gone.
Poor guy.
I'm so the amount of fucking horses. I'm so sad about the horses.
Welcome to history.
So the most damaging hit outside of all the people and the horses was the treasure. Tons of the treasure sank its way to the bottom of the lake, never to be seen again.
Oh, man. Now, I feel like people probably scuba dive down there and try to find shit nowadays.
It's no longer there, sir.
Oh, the whole lake is gone?
We'll talk about it at the end.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the Spaniards fucked that up. They let that bitch dry up, and we'll talk about why.
That sounds right. Instead of chasing down the Spanish and finishing them off while they were weak and essentially unarmed, the Aztecs celebrated their victory. Which, God, they never seem to just... It's like the good guy who doesn't kill the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm so good. So close. And he pulls the gun and uncocks it and walks away, and the bad guy comes back.
Yeah.
Bro,
there's the sequel. About 80 Spanish made their way back to the Spanish fort within the city, but were eventually forced to surrender after holding out for 2 days. Once they did, they were taken to the top of the temples and sacrificed to the Aztecs' god of war, of course. Mm-hmm. The survivors limped their way back to Tlaxcala, 50 miles away and over the mountains.
That's where we'll pick back up.
Oh, man.
Now, next week's episode.
Next time on Drinking Our Way Through History.
Oh, man. And so the next time is Cortez's he goes through more battles, of course. We're going to kind of go through that part, but then we're going to talk about some fucking insane shit that the Spaniards did to allow Cortés to have the most successful naval operation in a landlocked naval operation. To date, he is the most successful. It's the most successful naval operation that's ever existed in a landlocked situation.
Shout out Cortés, man. Breaking records, kicking asses, taking names.
So, sorry guys. I thought this was gonna be a 3-parter, but there's a little bit more. It's only gonna be one more episode.
We need one more.
Yeah, and instead of us losing our energy and being boring after 30, an additional 20 more minutes, we're just gonna save that energy for you for next week on this, and we'll get back to you with the story of Cortés.
I mean, it's not over yet. It just gets crazier.
It just gets crazier. This is, and it's the Aztecs, man. They hold out, dude. They hold out.
Well, they are the Aztecs.
They're badass. They're badass. So yeah, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in today. If you didn't pay attention to Ian at the beginning, rate us, review us, love us.
I mean, I know I'm a 10. He's about a 7.
I'll take a 7.
6, baby.
Ian, what do you got for the kids?
He's likely a 5.
What the fuck for the kids?
Probably a 4. 3, 2, 1. Anyway, if you made it this far in the episode, you're the shit. We love you. You're cool. And keep being awesome, man.
Stay beautiful, bitches, because we fucking love you.
We fucking love you.